I think one of the coolest times to be at White Oaks Duck Woods, I mean, it's always cool to be at White Oaks Duck Woods, but I think one of the coolest times is that Thursday when the second split opens. It's always good because it seems like the water kind of gets stabilized and it's right everywhere. It seems like going into the second split opener last winter, Jeff was holding a bunch of ducks. And so we were, that Wednesday night, we were cooking dinner and kind of, all fired up, man. I mean, it's like opening day part 2. I'll not forget, we were on the back porch and we were watching on the TV a ball game or something, and all of a sudden the news cut in and they started talking about this tornado that was coming. And man, when the guy was standing there pointing at the screen, like literally somebody said, "That's the Wire Road," which is the name of the road that runs right through the middle of Jeff's farm. And we were all like, holy crap. And about that time, you could hear the tornado. And I mean, it sounded like, people always say it sounds like a freight train, and it did. And I mean, you could hear it coming. And about the time it got to the trees, it just kind of got that eerie, you could feel it in the air. The generator died, the power went off, and all of a sudden, man, it hit the ground. And when it hit the ground, those trees started snapping off. It sounded like they sounded like toothpicks. I mean, but it was, you could tell from the sound that you were hearing that it was giant oak trees. And it hit the ground and went, cut catty corner across his farm. And I mean, you could hear it as it was going through there, and we couldn't hear it anymore about the time it got to the gate and went on up to the kind of northeast. And when we got the power fired back up, Jeff was anxious to go kind of survey the damage, because with what we heard, he knew that there was a bunch of trees down and had to be a bunch of damage. And man, I mean, you couldn't have in your wildest imagination dreamed that a storm could do what it did to those woods. I mean, they're big, beautiful, mature oak trees, and there wasn't a leaf on the ground. I mean, it sucked all the leaves off the ground, displaced the water, and it was just giant oak trees all just on top of each other. The next morning, I remember we started a little extra early, ended up having to make a real long Can-Am ride around the other side of the farm to get to where we wanted to hunt. And so we were, we were 30, 40 minutes before shooting light, and you could hear the ducks in the air. And it was a really cool moment, because I could tell the night before Jeff was so upset about his woods, which, I mean, anybody would be, but there was so much uncertainty about how that storm might have changed the farm and the way the ducks would see those woods from the air. And Jeff said to us, he was like, man, nothing we can do about it. Nothing I can do. You can't buy insurance for those trees. You can't plant those trees. They just are what they are. But then, right there before shooting light, I mean, we let the biggest group of ducks I've ever seen come through the trees, I think, probably in my whole life. And Jeff looked at me and he said, man, it's like the good Lord saying it's gonna all be okay.
The perils of the storm continue. Yeah.
chills right there.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Everything feels a little better after that. I'm like, that one's gonna be Spence's right there, so I'm gonna stay on the end.
Well, good. I'm serious. I think everybody killed 3 at that first draw.
It was a really, really cool hunt for a lot of reasons. You know, it's sad to see what that storm did to those woods, but it was also cool to just see that, you know, those ducks are pretty resilient, and they still wanted to come to those woods. And I don't know, I'm glad I was there to see it.